Hello and welcome students. In this video we are going to do a full lesson on polynomials. So basically we will go over different concepts of polynomials in this one single lesson. And basically we talk about initially adding and subtracting polynomials, multiplying polynomials. But before we delve into all of those, we will start with the very first basic words that we need to know, or the concepts that are important to understand polynomials. So we'll start with the very first term that is important to know is going to be called variables. So variable is basically, they are going to be all lowercase letters that you will see. They are going to be all lowercase. In polynomials, you'll see a lot of lowercase letters and they are called variables. They always denote an unknown value. That is another thing to understand. An unknown value. The next one is, what could be the different lowercase variables? As you know, in our English alphabet, there are many, 26 letters. So they can take up any 26 letters from the English alphabet, X, Y, Z, P, Q, R, T, S, to be some common ones. Now, the other thing that is important to know about variables is that the value of the variable varies in every question, and hence the name variable. So I would like for you to now circle the word vary in it. That will help you remember that the value of the variable varies with every question that you solve. All right, the next word that we are going to take a look at after this, next vocabulary word that is important for you, is going to be the word constant. Now, as the name says, it is something that is constant. The value doesn't change. So in a way, we can say it is going to be in a polynomial, a part of a polynomial that has a fixed value. Now, what type of fixed values it could have? Like 2, 3, 7, -1, pi. Pi, the value of pi never changes, remains the same. Euler's number, another constant. And basically the meaning of constant is that the value remains same anywhere in the world. All around the world, the value of a constant doesn't change. So that means the value of 7 is the same in India. The value of 7 is same in United States. So 7 means 7 anywhere you go. So hence it is constant, doesn't change. All right, next up, our next word that we are going to look at is going to be called algebraic expression. Now, algebraic expression is basically, it's a combo. So we can write down it's a combination. What is it a combination of? It is a combination of terms, and they are separated by plus or minus sign. So algebraic expression is a combination of terms separated by positive and negative sign. Next up, an example of algebraic expression, we can write down 2x plus 3y minus 7. Now here you can see that they are being separated by positive and negative signs. So these are the positive and negative signs here. And then here you have the constant and variable together. And this is just the constant. So as you can see, this whole thing makes up an algebraic expression. All right, let us take a look at more examples. It can be x squared plus 4y plus 3 is another algebraic expression. Another one can be square root of x plus 4y is another algebraic expression. Let's take a look at another one also. to give you another type of example where you have a rational expression in the variable's exponent. So that's another algebraic expression. So these were some examples of the algebraic expressions that you will be seeing as you do questions on polynomials. All right, let's move on to our next definition that is important before we even delve into working with polynomials or solving them. We will have the definition of the word itself, polynomial. So basically, polynomials are what? They are special form of algebraic expressions with only, now comes the important part, with only whole number as the power of the variable. So here it's very important to understand that what are polynomials? Basically, polynomials are going to be those algebraic expressions which only have, so I would like for you to highlight this part, that they only have whole numbers as the power. So this is something very important to know, that if they have a fraction in their power, if they have a square root on the variable, they will not be polynomials. So let us take a look at some examples of polynomials next. We are taking a look at examples of polynomials, and we can write it as 2x plus 3y minus 7. Now let us take a look at the powers of the variable. What is the power of this variable? The power of the variable x here is 1. The power of y is 1, which is a whole number. So hence we can say that this is a polynomial, right? All right, our next one is x squared plus 4y plus 3, and this also, as you can see, the powers are here are whole numbers. So we can say here is the power is whole number, also whole number, so we can say that this is a polynomial also. All right, now let us take a look at more examples here. So let us say we have 4 over x minus 3. Now they are asking us if it's a polynomial or not. Now you can pause the video and just think about it, or we can actually take a look at how we can write down x. It's at the bottom with power positive 1. So there is a rule of exponent that wherever it's at the bottom with the power positive 1, I take it to the top and I can make the power negative 1. In order to see what the actual power is and then make my decision about whether it's a polynomial or not. So here I can say that my final, how my polynomial is looking is like this. That's another form I can write the polynomial into. And I see that the power is not a whole number. So if the power is not a whole number, it is not a polynomial. So that's something important to know. It cannot be a negative power also. It just has to be positive whole numbers. All right, let's move on to our next example. Let us say we have another example will be 0. Now, can I write down 0 as 0 times x to the power of 1? It'll still be 0, right? So here the power of variable is still 1. It's a whole number. So hence I can say the power is a whole number. So then, yes, a polynomial. All right, next up, let us take another example. Let us say 3x minus 1. Is this a polynomial? Obviously, by now you know that it is the power of x is positive. It's a positive whole number. So yes, it is a polynomial. All right, now let us take a look at another example, which is a little different. So let us say we have 4 square root x minus 3y plus 6x. Now here, if I want to rewrite the same expression, I can say that this is 4 times x to the power of 1 by 2. Remember, square root power can be written as 1 by 2 minus 3y plus 6x. Now these are fine, but the problem is here that my power is a fraction. So I cannot have a fraction also in the power. Hence, I can say that this is not a polynomial. Not a polynomial. So just remember that powers, we only decide whether they are polynomial or not just by looking at their powers. So the last question I would like for you to try on your own. Tell me whether this is a polynomial or not. So you can copy this question and figure out if this is a polynomial or not, and if it is, why? If it is not, why? So just share the reason also. All right, let's move on to our next topic after this. Our next topic after this is going to be, basically we are going to talk about the general form of the polynomial. So let's write down the topic, general form of the polynomial. So the general form of polynomial, basically it's very important to know is that they write it like p of x. Like a function only we write. So basically it means that this is a polynomial in variable x. That is what the meaning of it is. Polynomial in variable x. Now, another way in which they can denote the polynomial also in some of the other resources you will see is also written as p of t. So everything basically remains the same. They are just denoting the first one with the variable x and the other one with the variable t. And like on the first slide or the first page, we talked about that they are going to use any English letter to denote the variables in polynomials. So this is the polynomial in variable t. All right, so another example of how they will write the polynomial could be p of x equals ax plus b is another way of writing the polynomial. So here this is basically a linear polynomial. Why linear? Because the power of x is 1. So if you graph this polynomial, you will actually see a line or linear or linear, from there it comes. Now let us take a look at an example of a polynomial. So example. Let's write down a polynomial. We can denote it as p of x equals negative 4x cubed plus 3x squared plus x minus 2. So this is an example of a polynomial. Now let us take a look at some of the questions related to this polynomial, which could be asked are as follows, and they are, the first question is this a polynomial? So I want you to pause the video a little and think about, is this really a polynomial or not? So, all right, so yes, we can say this is a polynomial because what do we need to check when we are checking when a given expression is a polynomial or not? So remember, we always take a look at the powers of the variable. And here I can see that the powers of variables are whole numbers. If there's no power with the constant of the variable, I can also always bring a variable and put the 0 power. And hence you can see here that all the powers are whole numbers. So I can say that yes, this is a polynomial. All right, so here I'm saying yes, the given question is a polynomial. Next one is, the question is, what is the coefficient of x cubed? So there is a term with x cubed and they are asking us what is the coefficient of x cubed. So always remember, coefficient is what? The number before x cubed is going to be the coefficient along with the sign. So that's important. Coefficient, so how I take a look at it is, coefficient has the word efficient in it. So basically it means that it is somebody who's efficient and they are before x cube even because they are so efficient. So something, just to help you remember. Hence I can say that the coefficient of x cube is -4. And let's move on to the next type of question that could be asked on about the same polynomial we are looking at, which is going to be, what is the coefficient of x squared? Now take a look at the polynomial and think about what is the coefficient of, this is the term with x squared. Now take a look at the number before x squared. So the number before x squared we can see here is +3. So we can say that it is +3 here. Now next up, they are asking us what is the constant term in the polynomial. So the constant term, as you can see, the term which has variable with power 0, or mostly they don't write this part. So it is actually your last term mostly if it's written in standard form, or a number which does not have a variable with it or which does not change. So here our constant term is -2. All right, so let us move on. We are going to have the same polynomial. So copy the polynomial because the screen is going to be sliding. So you can actually refer to the polynomial from your notebook. So the next question here is going to be about that what is the degree of the polynomial? So the degree of the polynomial, as you can see, the highest power of x in the polynomial is what? It's 3. So the degree, what is the definition of degree? It's the highest power. So always that is the degree of the polynomial, and we classify them by degree and by the number of terms. So here the degree of this polynomial is 3, which makes it a cubic polynomial. All right, next up we have, next question is, how many number of terms are there? That's another question about this polynomial. How many number of terms? So basically the number of terms are, actually let's go back to the polynomial and see how many terms are there. So this full piece is actually a term. So this piece is a term. This piece is another term, and this piece is another term. So as you can see in your polynomial, there are a total of 3 terms. So number of terms are, actually it has 4 terms, I'm sorry. So as you can see, there's too much going on this polynomial, too much writing. So I'm going to write it again over here for you, where we are talking about the number of terms, so things are a little clear to you. So the polynomial is -4x cubed plus 3x squared plus x minus 2. So I'm just going to list out the terms for you clearly here. So let's list out the terms. This is first term, second term, third term, fourth term. So we can say that the number of terms are 4, and hence this polynomial is called a quartic polynomial because the number of terms are 4. All right, so now let us move on to our next topic, which is still related to polynomials, introduction only, where we are going to talk about the different types of polynomials. So let us make a little T-chart here, which will help us understand the types of polynomials. So we write down types of polynomials. So we just make a chart like this, where actually we classify the polynomials in 2 ways. We classify them by the number of terms they have and the degree of the polynomial. So there are two different ways in which we classify them. So let us write down how we classify them in the first way, which is going to be, the first way in which we classify them is by the number of terms. Number of terms. And the second way in which we classify them is going to be by the degree of the polynomial. All right, so now let us see how we classify them by the number of terms. So if the number of terms in the polynomial is going to be 1, that type of polynomial is called a monomial with one term. And an example could be, it is x to the power of 3. That's just one term, x cubed, and there are no more terms separated by plus or minus signs. Hence, it is called a monomial. Mono means 1. Now, let us see a polynomial with 2 terms. What is that called? A polynomial with 2 terms is called binomial. And we can give an example as x cubed plus 4x. Now here you can see they are separated by this plus sign and there are 2 terms. One term is x cubed, the other term is 4x. Hence there are 2 terms and we call it a binomial. Now we'll call the 3 terms one. The polynomial with 3 terms is called a trinomial. And let us write down an example. It can be x cubed plus 4x plus 3y. So it has 3 terms here. Basically, you can see that there are 3 terms. So hence the name trinomial. This is the first term, second term, third term. And here I would like for you to also circle and highlight tri, which helps us understand. Now here it is a binomial because it has 2 terms, which are these. Mono means 1, monomial, only 1 term. Now, let us take a look at how they are classified by degree. Now, when degree is 1, now when the polynomial has 1 degree, they are called linear polynomials. And it is similar to linear equations that we did, when we were doing graphing. So basically linear, linear, makes a line. Degree 2. Now degree 2 polynomials are called quadratic. And then the polynomials with degree 3 are called cubic. Basically, they are written as x cubed. All right. So now, remember, let's just look at our details here a little bit as to you need to understand the number of terms and, the degree. So they can give you a polynomial question and they can ask you to give the name to the polynomial as to what the polynomial is in relation to the number of terms and the degree as well. So we'll take a look at what those type of questions look like in our next screen. So let us take a look at our question that we will see, which is going to be